Brian Fullerton, thank you for your time today. I appreciate you coming on the show. You're the man every lawn care kid looks up to. Starting Little Caesar franchise, started spraying lawns, and then got inspired by a few other kids mowing lawns. Is how things started out, by the sounds of it. With almost 3 million listeners, YouTube channel with over 200,000 subscribers, and quite the family man running a successful business. To say you're busy is quite an understatement. So I appreciate this time and welcome to the show.
Yeah, Charlie, thanks for having me on, brother. It's been a busy week, real time. We're doing cleanups, we're mowing. I've been hopping in the field a little bit to help the guys. I don't know, in Canada how the weather pattern has been, but in Michigan it went from 0 to 100. It was super cold, and kind of like the season was on, and then the grass was kind of growing. The schedule's getting later in the season, and then all of a sudden we hit some 70-degree days, and the dam is burst. I was just actually sharing an Instagram story. My website, I think, had 45 leads in like the last week or so. It's coming in, bro. It's crazy. I'm sure you guys are dealing with the same stuff. It's the spring rush, man. Here we go, 2024.
Yes, all part of the fun. Eh?
That's right. That's right.
Listen, let's hop into it. I'd love to hear your story super briefly, and then we'll talk. I'd like to tap into more the business aspect of the lawn and landscape industry. You're quite a figure within the space. So let's super quick. How did things get started? How did things get off the ground, and where the hell did this camera come from?
Yeah, no kid, man. Well, first off, thanks for the kind words on the intro. I didn't feed that to you. I don't have a bio. I don't tell people to say anything nice about me. Frankly, I'm just another guy, man. We cut grass up here in Southeast Michigan. I guess it would be down where you guys are from. You're in Canada, which is above us. No, normally we're in the north, if you will, right? But yeah, long story short, man, I was like that good old, 10, 12-year-old teenage kid, just getting out there cutting some grass. I grew up in a double wide trailer in one of the subdivisions or suburbs, I should say, of Michigan. No silver spoon, no connections, no, dude, just the most humble, small kid you could imagine background, right? Single mom, my dad had passed away already. Two brothers, just quaint, like living, man, in a little trailer park. And it was a fun childhood. And I'm not going to lie, like big trailer park, tons and tons of kids. We played football, baseball, whatever was the championship going on TV. That was this season of sport that we were playing, right? So, and I don't know exactly how I got started cutting grass. All I know is I probably wanted to make some money, go buy some toys, or the ice cream truck would go around in the subdivision, that kind of stuff. Maybe I wanted a BB gun. I don't really remember. I remember, though, that I did like paintball. I did like fireworks, and Subway sandwiches were coming around back in the early 90s. And I wanted some of the fun stuff. And, as a struggling, single mom trying to raise three boys, it wasn't a lot of disposable income, as you can imagine, right? So I think it was just a pursuit of trying to have some money. It wasn't trying to get rich. I was just trying to get some weekend spending money. So I started mowing our lawn, a couple of the neighbors. I had no idea what I was doing. I was 10, 12 years old. Did that for a couple of years, had a good little business. It was called Brian's Lawn Care. And that was it. It was like my little hustle, right? I had no idea what mowers to buy, what trimmers, blowers. Today you can go on YouTube and check all that stuff out, even if you're 15 years old, and still make some, educated buying decisions. All my stuff was just Kmart Big Pay Special, So I did that for a few years. Ended up going to work at Little Caesars because I thought that's just what you did. You have to get a job. And so worked there for as a crew member at 16, 17, a shift manager, then a co-manager. Then I was running our own store. It was a corporate store. And I ran that for about 18, 24 months and actually got canned. It's a whole story there. I talk about it in our book that we launched last year. And just short story long, like that was devastating because I was 19, 20 years old, making 40 grand a year. Today's money would have been 60, 70 grand, which is, good money for a single kid, right? And now I'm 19, 20. I'm kind of like the old fart. I don't know, like, do I go to college? All my buddies are now sophomores and juniors. Do I try to find some other job? I don't know. So I ended up working at True Green. A lot of folks know ChemLaw and True Green. It's a whole story there, but that was a fun experience for 12, 18 months. And yeah, like you had already alluded to, I saw some guys cutting grass one day. And I said to myself, I can do that. I did that when I was a kid. I can do it as an adult. I'm sure I have some things to learn. And just the very, very abridged version was I went into a dealer. I bought a zero-turn mower. Started cutting grass again on the weekends. The following season, this is a big fork in the road. I wasn't intending to go full-time with my business, but my boss had thought that I was going full time in my business. I have no idea how those lines got crossed. Anyway, this is like in 2006, 2007, when the labor market was more in the employer's favor, right? So they had the choosing and the pickings. And so I got replaced, and I was like, well, I guess I'm going full time in lawn care. And so I worked my guts out, like you can't imagine, Charlie, for 10 to 12 weeks. I knew a number. I had a number in my head that was what I was making for my salary back at True Green. And if I could match that number by the spring rush, then I was going to go for it. And man, you've never seen somebody sell like their life depended on it. I was door hangers, postcards, calling friends and family. I was taking lawns 30 minutes away. Horrible, no route density kind of stuff. Low price, cheap prices. But you know what, dude? We made it work. And it was just a wild start. And then kind of fast forward about 10, 12 years, I wasn't the most illustrious career in there. Made every mistake you can imagine and then some. And in 2016, we hopped on YouTube. There's a whole story there. I'm sure we'll get into a little bit. And that's what I kind of call Brian's Law Maintenance 2.0. And that's where a lot of folks kind of watch us on YouTube. And along the way, we created an Instagram, and we started a podcast in 2020. And what else? We have a live event that we did a couple years into it. And that really, I was just documenting what we were doing. And I was just trying to help people with some of the mistakes I had made along the way. What I never expected was how much social media would help me, to be a better business owner. And that's the truth. And so I kind of call it like a line in the sand in 2016, 2017, where we restarted the company, started doing things by the books, learning more about how to actually do the work, running a real business, not just a little side hustle, right? And it's been a wild journey. And some of the stats have like grown, like you said, a couple 100,000 subs, a couple million downloads on the podcast, wild stuff. I mean, I'm literally the most unlikely guy to do social media. I'm 37 years old. I'm an old fart. I'm not an outgoing personality type. I am a humble beginning, kind of a background guy. No shout outs, no connections on social media. My first TikTok, didn't get 2 million likes and 20,000 followers, on day one, like some of these guys these days. Just kind of slow and steady, wins the race kind of a guy, man. And that's compounded over 7 or 8 years. And the lawn care business has grown since then. The social media has grown since then. The family's grown since then. And it's been a wild last 6, 7, 8 years, brother. So that's Brian's Law Maintenance in like 5 minutes or less. If anybody doesn't know our background, man, it's been crazy.
So Brian, let's touch on getting thrown right into the deep end right away, because that's seen and commonly seen, whether it's the lawn care business or not, just contractors in general, slowly getting their feet wet a little bit, half-assing it, not fully committing to it. Like, are you able to allude that to your success now looking back, and almost thankful for getting thrown into the deep end and hit the ground running right away?
Boy, that's a good question, man. I don't know if I've ever had anybody phrase it that way, because that makes me really want to think about giving an appropriate answer, because, here's the deal. Like, I don't know if I ever would have went full time. Right. I mean, I had a good little cush job making 30, 40 grand a year at True Green. It was a decent job. I worked like 6 to 3 every day and get in, get out, mow my lawns on the weekends, right? And nights and weekends. So I don't know if I ever had, well, let me rephrase that. I don't know what going full time would have looked like for me on my terms. So I think it was God's timing and God's plan for things to unravel or reveal themselves the way they did, because knowing my personality type being kind of low risk, I'm not a very falutin person. I'm not a loud, hard charging type. I want to believe I will charge the hill just like anybody else. But, when you're 19, 20 years old and, dude, you don't know anything. I didn't grow up with success. I didn't grow up with a wealth mentality. I didn't grow up with rich family members or relatives. Nobody in my family made more than 50 grand a year. My family was in the restaurant business and it was feast or famine. So I can't just pretend like, oh, my dad was a successful corporate attorney and he said, if I work hard, I can win. Like, I don't even know if I have those kind of beliefs put into me, to be honest with you. I was a blank slate. I was just kind of wandering. And so for me to be like, oh yeah, we're going full time, I'm taking this thing to the front, I'm going to do $1 million. I don't think I would have had that belief back then. I think one of my friends, Josh, he says a lot of success in entrepreneurship is jumping off the cliff and building your airplane on the way down. I think that's kind of how it worked for me. And People are like, are you resentful or frustrated that True Green fired you or Little Caesars fired you? And I go, at the time, sure. But looking back on it, obviously the best decisions and opportunities that ever presented themselves for myself, right? So hindsight 2020, I'd love to say, yeah, Charlie, if anybody's listening to this, drop the hammer, tell your boss, take a flying leap. I'm out of here. I'm going all in. That might work for some of you guys. I don't know if that would have worked for me. I was a dip my big toe in, make sure I had the boat close to the dock, make sure I had some numbers lined up, and that decision was accelerated for me, no doubt about it. But I'm glad that things transpired the way they did for me and my story. I'll just tell you that. So hopefully that answers your
Well,
question. A little bit different answer.
yeah, that's perfect, Brian. And thinking back, I know that was a while ago. I was 1 year old at that point. What were a few of the key metrics or key things that you focused on that made you come up on top and made you able to I guess make those first few years successful and then get the snowball rolling to eventually build this empire that you're running now?
Yeah, a great question, man. Again, we messed more stuff up than we did things right. And the things I did right, though, and I had a friend tell me this. He said, your work ethic was second to none. Your route density saved your life. And, you had a very positive attitude. And if you think about it, like that's kind of lawn and landscaping in a nutshell. You have to have a figure it out mentality because it's a very challenging industry, very dynamic. Even if you mow the same lawns every week, it's almost like every day is something different, right? Number two, you got to have route density. You have to be able to understand what's the best customers, what's the best clientele, what's the best area, what's the best route, right? Like that's what makes it the most profitable for you. And then number three, just having a positive attitude. Like it's going to be challenging running your own business. It's challenging. Anybody who tells you otherwise, they're lying to you. And I don't want anybody to just think, oh, you get a mower, you get a truck, and you're going to go make 100 grand tomorrow, like Charlie here. Okay, it could work for you that way. For me, it didn't. It was a long, slow grind, and we had a lot to learn. Now, can you learn how to do it in 24 to 36 months versus maybe 5 or 10 years, like myself, with all the content that's out there today, with great podcasts like Charlie's here and so many more? Sure, I believe that. I think you can chisel out 100 grand a year income and revenue and business, no problem. And if you want to go to 1 million in 3 to 5 years, you could probably do it in two. But if you want to do it in 3 to 5 years, you can absolutely do that. But I don't know if we did all the things right. The couple things that did save our tail though were those couple items that I listed off there. But what that did, Charlie, was that bought me some time. That bought me time to figure out the rest of the industry, the rest of how to run a business. That gave me enough cash to survive, to keep the water like chin level or lower, right? We weren't balling or anything like that, but my bills were paid. It was a decent little lifestyle for a single guy. There's a whole nother evolution of that to when I met my wife in 2012, 13, 14. We got engaged, married. That's really what kind of sparked the second wave of my life and my business. But in the beginning, I think it was just the fact that we had some good route density. We were willing to work. We were willing to get dirty. And we just weren't going to give up.
I love that. And what I'm getting out of that as well for the folks just starting out of like, just do it shitty, just get started and refine as you go. And to your point of how many resources there are out there, like your podcast, your YouTube, and so many other channels, it's all out there. The knowledge just needs to be captured and paced after.
I feel
And
you. Yep.
Brian, it's impressive in how your time can get so thin spread, I'm sure, with family and the content side, but also running a successful lawn business. And speaking with you just briefly, it sounds like you're in a phase where you have those things figured out and you're dialing in and taking it to the next level, the lawn mowing business and landscape. What are a few things taking it from just an average business to $1 million plus that are really going to be focused on the next few months, the next few years, and those few key metrics that you're going to measure to get there as quickly as possible?
Yeah, that's a good question, man. I'll tell you, anybody who says that they got it all figured out or that things are easy, it's not. You can have control or you can have growth. Right now, our life is pretty hectic, pretty chaos, but it's a season, right? We're building a home, we're having babies, we're looking to grow the company, get more routes established, more guys trained up, buying new equipment, cash flow is crazy. So there's different levels of growth, different seasons of growth. You just kind of have to know where you're at. And the last couple of years were pretty chill. We were running some good profit. I had a good team of guys. It was just my wife and I, and we were saving money. Nothing wrong with that, right? But as we aspired to grow, as we aspired to give our guys opportunity for growth, as we wanted to grow our family, Liz and I wanted to build our dream house, like those seasons changed, like our priorities changed, our focus changed, right? So you really got to, I heard somebody say, you got to know what you want, why you want it, when do you want it by, and what are you willing to give up to get it. And I've really tried to help my wife and I really understand all that and the above with anytime we're trying to make a decision, right? So for right now, we are excited about growth. We are excited about going to $1 million plus company, multi-million dollar plus company over the next couple of years. Right now, it's absolutely chaos behind the scenes, right? As you know how it goes, brother. We're taking a half hour, 45 minutes out to do this today. But as soon as I get off this, it's back to bids, quotes, estimates, making sure the guys have routes, making sure that we have our mulch ordered for our 30-yard, mulch install on Saturday. Next week, moving a couple 100 yards more of mulch. It's like a duck on water. You ever heard that one, Charlie? Like the duck looks really smooth on top, but underneath his legs are kicking like crazy. So I think that's probably us right now.
That's awesome. I'm sure every other business owner can relate to that, Brad. So let's touch on the importance of, like, while we're in this stage, and I can relate to it as well, being smaller owner operator businesses, the guys around, $300,000, $500,000, the importance of documenting the processes and systems now and when they're at that stage. So when they're at $1 million, $1.5 million, 2 million, 10 million, it makes their life so much easier. Like if you could tap on that, and also what you're doing real time to make your life easier when you get to that stage. Just the importance of like documenting systems and processes while we're at this stage of like 300, 500,000, so we can make our lives easier at 1.5, 2 million, etc.
Dude, that is a really, really good question. So here's what we're doing right now. The last about, I'd say 3 or 4 months, it's really challenged me as I want to go to the next level to really take an audit, like what we have going on in our company and how we can better lay the foundation, not only for where we're at now, but for where we want to go. So quantify that, right? For us personally, a little shout out to Mark Bradley and the LMN folks. And I know you're a user of LMN and a big advocate as well. We went to his mastermind summits that he was doing through the winter. And I honestly, I just fell in love. I fell in love with what Mark was sharing, his philosophy about business. We actually jumped over to LMN for our CRM recently. We went all in, and really it was the blueprint that Mark put out that really helped me have a true north, or a company philosophy and operating system, I think he called it, for how we want to approach business, moving forward. And so for me, that booklet that he gave us, I have it actually somewhere here in my office, but that gave us a whole bunch of items for us to work with, work on the business, not just in the business, as we look forward to having a great 2024, but really laying the foundation for a phenomenal 2025. So let me break that down. Things like we had employee handbooks, we had good company contracts, we had good customers, we have great guys. They're really good at doing the work. Like those basics were there. But as we look to grow a company, things like having a vision statement, a mission statement, writing down our company core values, really making sure our employee handbook is tight, and really trying to understand the mission of the company as we continue to grow. Like, what does everybody want? What kind of customers do we want? What do we want to be known for? Who are we? Like those exercises, and some of them, by the way, are you write them down on a napkin, you're good to go. Other ones, you pull the team together, you brainstorm for a day or two, and you write them down on a whiteboard, right? Other ones are solo, kind of goals and dreams and aspirations that you need to find a quiet, day or evening and write those down for yourself. And that's really what we've been trying to do for the company. The reason I say writing these things down is because if you have a vision statement, you're going to be able to attract the right team members to your company as you aspire to grow. And if you have the right mission statement, you're going to be able to attract the right customers to grow. And you're going to need both of these here as you look to grow your company. And that doesn't mean take it to 5 million. It just means if you want to grow, you got to know what you're trying to attract for both customers and team members. And for me personally, it was a good exercise for me, but it was also a great exercise for the guys. Like, what do you guys want out of this company? Where do you see Brian's Lawn Maintenance going? What are we all trying to accomplish together? And, admittedly, that's not something you do on a 75-degree sunny day when there's mulch to get, installed, or lawns to get cut. That's stuff that you can do on a first of the month, or a rainy day for a day or two, that kind of stuff, which is, it's not necessarily revenue producing work, but it's still very, very productive conversation. So for us personally, we're looking to document every single thing that we do this year, log every hour, write down every single thing that we're doing. So we have the data that we need to really make the best decisions to go into 2025 and take this thing to the moon. So this year, I got some folks asking, hey, what did we do for revenue? Last year was 375 grand. And folks like, you going to $1 million this year? I said, I'd be surprised if we do, maybe 500-600 grand, because there's going to be some good growth. But really, it's 2025 that I'm most excited about, because I think once we lay the foundation this year, it'll really give us the springboard to grow to $1 million+ company next year. Now, granted, you don't need to have all these things in place to grow. I mean, there's a lot of folks that, like you said earlier, Charlie, that create a huge mess and they do $2 million. The problem with that, though, is that I've seen just as many people come and go that buy some fancy trucks, they get a mob of guys together, they do some phenomenal work, but usually their talent got them to a place where their character couldn't sustain them. And so we don't want to be a pop and drop in terms of a company that comes and goes. And so that's why I want to make sure that we have the foundation laid, because you can't build a skyscraper on the foundation of a 2-story home. It's just not going to work that way. So I don't want to get ahead of myself with where our company can go. I'm feeling ambitious. I'm feeling lofty, but I also know we got to make sure that we got the right parameters set to be able to sustain and support that growth. And for me, the more guys you bring on, the bigger your family gets. There's mouths to feed. There's payroll to take care of. You can't be flippant, and flipping it with the way that you're growing your business. Not in this economy, and not with the competition that's out there. They're getting smarter every day, of course. So hopefully that helps your answer.
That's awesome. So you mentioned measuring in there, Brian, and I'd like the importance of measuring, and Mark says this as well, but you can't improve anything you're not measuring, whether it's the growth, analyzing or reporting, whether it's man hours or production rates, and that's super cool to hear that, of like taking this year to really make it almost a science experiment and then capitalize on the data you have going into next year. And in terms of marketing and ad spend, with a lot of it being reoccurring businesses, I'm curious how you guys measure and quantify your marketing budgets, also your customer acquisition costs, but the lifetime value of a client as well. Like, where do you guys stand with that?
That's a good question. Admittedly, I don't get so lost in the weeds with customer acquisition cost or marketing ad spend. We run a couple campaigns in the spring, a couple in the fall, but I'm not like ripping off 3%, 7%, 1%, from our gross to allocate that to marketing exclusively. As we continue to grow, perhaps we'll have some better parameters in place and take some coaching or suggestions from maybe Mark Bradley, who's the person I'm kind of getting pseudo mentored by right now, and who's my guy right now. So I'm sure I'll be able to give you some more concrete answers moving forward, but I don't want to BS anybody and say we peel off exactly 1.5% and $30,000 a year. Dude, it may be, but maybe not, right? We are running some spring campaigns. We have a postcard print company that we've partnered with, and then we also run some in the fall. Really, it's what does the route need and where are we trying to go to hit that revenue goal? So it's not like I'm just peeling off 3% or $30,000 and churning and burning to just get the phone to ring. I'm trying to be a little bit more strategic. Hey, we've got room for 7 commercial sites. I'm going to market this area of town. That's where I want to backfill. I could do that by spending $200, or I could do it by spending 20 grand. We're going to spend whatever it takes until we get to where we need to go and where we want that route to be. I don't know if that's the sexy answer, but that's just how I look at it. I'm not just a blanket statement kind of guy. So that's what we're doing right now. As we look to grow in the future, I've never really counted the cost of reinvesting into the business. I'm sure I could say, hey, we spent $1.71 or $29, for a customer. Don't know, don't care. I'm sure the lower the number, the better. And that's fine, and that's cool. And I'm sure somebody can bean count on all that. But the top line needs to grow and the bottom line needs to grow. Like, I learned that from a guy named Corey Ballard. He's a legend in the industry. Top line's vanity, bottom line sanity. Like, look, right now, if you want to focus on the bottom line, you first got to get the top line to move. You don't just become more profitable by necessarily just having the same revenue. Of course, you can tidy up the ship, and I encourage everybody to do that. But for us, how much juice is worth the squeeze out of a 400 grand a year company? You can only do so much. So I'd like to run 2.5 million, and then yeah, we can talk about systems, processes, and profitability. But I need to get to 2.5 million first. You know what I mean? So,
Fair enough. Well, and the reason I ask is how easy it is to overspend on the marketing and just be throwing money out, but not realizing what's working and not honing in on what's working, just trying a bit of everything and blindly throwing it out there. So, honestly, stemmed from my curiosity. And you mentioned mentors. What's the importance of mentors and throughout your career and to get you to where you are now?
well, I mean, dude, take a look at my life. It's a running example. First 12 years we had no help. The next 6 years I was using secondhand help, and this year I'm talking about going to 600 grand, an extra million, 2 million, and then the year after that 3 to 5 million. I really do believe we can do that. The difference is no help, secondhand help, and first hand help. So mentors, they're really somebody who has been there and done that. They have no ulterior motive other than to help you. If you're going through a minefield, right, wouldn't you want to be first or would you like to be last? And for me personally, if I've never been through uncharted territory or this minefield, why would I want to go first? Or why would I want to go without a guide? Or why would I want to go without somebody in a tower or in a balloon telling me, hey, go left, go right, or hey, don't step there? Like, I think too many people, and I talk about this sometimes on my content, but too many folks are trying to reinvent the wheel. Business is business. It's been pretty much the same for a couple thousand years, but even our industry, it's been pretty much the same for 20, 30, 40 years. Now, strategies change, tactics change, best practices change, and they get better. But to run a profitable business and have a great team and have good culture and a good vision, like those things haven't changed, Charlie. Like since I was your age doing this to where I'm at now, those have always been the foundation of a good team or a good company, landscaping or otherwise. So I think at the end of the day, again, it really comes back down to like you got to know what you want, you got to know why you want it, you got to know when you want it, and what you're willing to give up to get there. For us personally, like, dude, I'm excited about growing, and that's really where our focus is right now. So again, probably another roundabout answer for you, but I just get fired up, man.
I love it. I love it. One, all good points there. And to recap, what I got out of that is you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Find someone who's done what you want to do, and figure out their detailed steps to getting there. Um, you're a very, very busy individual. I'm very curious how you split up and analyze your calendar to optimize the minimal time we get every day. Between content, your business, your multiple businesses, your family, etc.
It's a good question. Well, it's a lot. I will tell you, anybody who thinks they're going to be successful working 30, 40, 50 hours a week, they're probably wrong. I believe that they're wrong. I think anybody who thinks that success is, having a crew back at home and you're on the beach with a laptop drinking an alcoholic beverage, I think you're confused. I think what's the old saying? Like, success is often overlooked because it disguises itself in blue jeans and overalls. Like, look, there's Chat GPT and technology and AI and what's your tech stack and great CRMs and great software. But dude, somebody still has to put in the work. Like, we're still a labor intensive business. Yes, you can get machines, but machines have to be moving. And I think a lot of people get confused with that. So I think, I don't know, I don't want to speak out of line, but for a lot of folks out there, they just think that it's just going to happen overnight. And it's just not the case. You have to get better at prioritizing things. You have to get good at block scheduling. You have to get good at saying no. These are common things that people hear, but how well are they doing? How self-aware are you? How many times have you had a self-audit of how you spend your time? How well are you at prioritizing? How well are you at focusing? How well are you at eliminating distractions? How important is it for you to have or not have FOMO, or to be part of the latest and greatest thing, or to see a sporting event, from a playoff game all the way to the Stanley Cup or the Super Bowl? Like, how important are those things? Because everybody wants like what Elon Musk has done the last 10, 15 years with SpaceX and Tesla. But the dude's been through 3 marriages, had 6 kids. He's been bankrupt almost a couple times. The dude lives on a private jet because he's traveling between his sites and his businesses. The dude gained, 50, 75 pounds overweight, lost it, gained it, lost it. Like, probably teetering on a heart attack once in a while. And success has a price. And I'm not saying you have to do those things, but all too often I see folks criticize successful people And I'm thinking to myself, like, dude, you have no idea what that dude took to get there. And so how do I schedule my time? How do we prioritize our time? We do all the things I was just talking about. We've learned to say no. We block schedule. We prioritize things. I do certain things on certain days and other things on other days. Do we always try to make sure that we get a weekly date night in as our couple with my wife and I? Yeah, we try to. With kids, it's harder, admittedly, but we always try to take an annual vacation or a marriage conference kind of a thing and pour back into ourselves and work on each other. I know the number one thing I can do as a dad is spend FaceTime with my kids for a couple hours every evening and read to them every night. For my guys, it's for them to make sure they have a schedule, to know that they're valued, they feel important, and that we have great communication when I'm not in the field. Giving them the tools and the resources and equipment that they need to make sure that they can succeed, right? Like, hey, what do you need from me to be able to succeed today? And getting those 4 p.m. check-ins, right? We talked a lot about that on LMN. Like, giving people the right tools and resources to grow. I never want to paint that anything is easy, because success isn't easy. If it was, then everybody would have it or do it, right? Just like six-pack abs. It's like one of the only things you still can't buy, right? So at the end of the day, like, we're extremely busy. I don't think we're any busier though than anybody else. That's the interesting part of this, right? Like, because look at myself, and some people would say, hey, we're successful. And then I would look at Mark Bradley and say, well, successful compared to who? Then you look at Elon Musk and you say, well, is Mark compared to the other Mark? I don't know. They both have been in business since the 90s. One's worth a lot of money. The other one's worth a lot of money. Like, how did they just spend their time differently, right? And so no one's better than right. No one's right or wrong, but success does leave clues, and it really always comes down to choices and decisions. If I can leave anybody with a thought on this topic, on this question, there's a guy named Darren Hardy, and he's got a YouTube video. You can probably find a bootlegged version of it. It's an oldie, but it's Productivity Secrets of Super Achievers was the title of the talk. And it was 6 priorities or 6 things you can do to get better at your time management. I watched that about 6 or 7 years ago, revolutionized my thought process and also my calendar. Also, there's a great book out there called The One Thing by, I think, one of the Keller guys, Keller Williams. I forget the guy's name, but one of the guys has a real estate company. And fantastic read if you guys have never heard the One Thing book. It's a really, really good read. I would encourage you guys to do that. And that's probably where I leave it, man.
Awesome.
It's everything you guys have heard. It's just executing. Everybody's got a lot of great ideas, Charlie. Very few people
executing, and the few things I want to highlight from that is throwing the word balance out the door. And it's worth the sacrifice if you're trying to do exceptional things. And you mentioned Elon Musk, his schedule, he schedules his day 5 minutes apart and goes so into depth. It's like turning pro with every little thing you do. Listen, I want to be respectful of your time here. Last question, standard that you hold everyone to around you, whether it be your team, family, whether it's personal as well. What's a standard?
Wow, that's a good question. I'm really thinking, because I feel like that's almost a question somebody else has to like answer for you. You know what I mean? Like one of those deals. I've got a lot of driving principles and things that are like the pilot light on for me. If I had to really distill it down to one that I think a lot of people have heard me say and know me by, and I got this from Darren Hardy, and he probably got it from somebody else, right? It's how success works. But it was, you never quite own success. You can only rent it, and that rent is due every day. Like, nobody cares about your last at bat. Nobody cares what you did yesterday. Nobody cares what you sold yesterday. Nobody cares if you hit a home run yesterday. Bro, nobody cares. It's what did you do today? And, all too often people spend a lot of their time, Charlie, like thinking about the past, or what do they call it? Like just being caught up in the past of like what they've done. And I'm thinking to myself, dude, who cares? Like, unless you like are doing something today and have current credibility, it's probably a stretch for me to really want to listen to you, unless you've done something really, really great. But I think that's something that differentiates us in the marketplace with everybody who's a social media influencer or a guru, right? I'm like, we're actually doing the stuff that we're talking about. Like I'm literally taking stuff I learned in the field today, and some of them are just stories. They're not teaching moments. They're just interesting case studies, and I'm sharing them out there. And people are like, dude, I just dealt with that yesterday or today, or bro, I'm going to deal with that probably this week. Like, that's what makes it fun and cool, because the stuff that we're doing. And I think a lot of folks out there are more interested in selling a course or a book or a membership. And like, bro, that's fine. I get it. I get the hustle, but like, don't forget to grow your business too. So if I had to say like what's one standard I think that I adhere to, it's what are you doing today? Like, are you showing your guys that you appreciate them today? I heard Charlie, you got a girlfriend or dating or anything like that yet?
Wow. No, dialed in, Brian.
Dialed in, bro. Hey, that's fine. I heard an old guy say, somebody said, when's the last time you told your wife you love her? And the guy said, well, 35 years ago when we got married. Like, bro, if you're not telling your wife that you love her every single day, somebody else will, and you're going to lose her. Like, you have to show that you cherish and love your wife every single day. And I need to get better at that every single day, of course. I'm not the best example, but it is a relevant example. Like, people need to know you care. And what's the old one, Charlie? Like, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And so keep those things, these thoughts, like in the back of your mind. Don't be so helter skelter. Like, success is basic principles, but all too often people are looking for the silver bullet or something fancy or the quick fix, and nobody's willing to put in those reps that are unsexy, that take time, but over time they will compound into true success, lasting success. And I think that's what more people should focus on. If I had to leave some breadcrumbs and some old thought process from this old fart, that's what I would leave everybody, brother.
Way to finish that off. That's awesome. Where can people find you, Brian?
Yeah, no, hey, first off, man, thank you for giving me a few minutes to hang out with you, share with your audience. By the way, dude, you were a hoot over at the LMN Summit in Orlando. I was so grateful to be able to sit next to you. We had a power packed table at who we had Troy Clogg, Jeremiah Jennings, a bunch of other great dudes. That St. Pierre guy was walking by and hanging out. Really, really good time, man. So thanks for introducing yourself to me. You got a bunch of great stuff going on. I know we had you on our podcast. I was able to share your story. So thank you for that opportunity. Dude, you can find me anywhere. YouTube, Instagram, Brian's Law Maintenance. And then we have a podcast, Fullerton Unfiltered. And we have a live event called Entrepreneur Academy Live in November. If anybody's in 4 or 5, 6 hours of Michigan, come check it out. It's in the fall. It's a great time. Frankly, we have people that fly in from Texas and California, Washington State. But man, if you guys are local, 5, 6 hours, Ontario or Toronto area, come on by from Canada. We'd love to have you guys. But dude, no, that's it. If you guys ever need anything, shoot me a DM on Instagram, shoot me an email. I'm really responsive, and anything I can do to help you guys grow, I'm always here for you.
Love it, Brian. Awesome. Thanks again. I know you got to bounce, get back to the million other things you have going on, but I'm sure we'll keep in touch and chat soon.
I appreciate it, brother. Thank you so much.